They call them monsters. But what if the word monster doesn't mean evil? What if it means unbreakable? Somewhere, right now, someone is rebuilding themselves in silence, not for revenge, not for attention, but because they've seen the truth. They've seen how weakness runs the world, how comfort kills drive, how society teaches you to smile when you're dying inside, to apologize for being strong, to hide your hunger behind a mask of politeness. And one day, that mask cracks. That's when something inside you stirs, a darker energy you've been suppressing. It's not rage, it's not hate, it's raw power, the part of you that refuses to kneel. You start to realize monsters aren't born from chaos. They're forged in it. They come from pain so deep, it either destroys you or transforms you. Every scar becomes a lesson. Every rejection becomes fuel. Every sleepless night becomes armor. And while others drown in excuses, you start to rise. Quietly, relentlessly. You stop begging for peace and start training for war. You stop chasing validation and start mastering yourself. You stop trying to be nice and start being real. That's when people begin to fear you. Not because you're cruel, but because they can't control you anymore. The same world that mocked your silence will one day whisper your name in awe, because discipline looks like madness to the lazy, and power looks like arrogance to the weak. You become calm under pressure, sharp in chaos, focused when everyone else panics. That's what the monster mindset truly is, not destruction, but dominion. It's about taming your inner chaos and turning it into control, because deep down you were never meant to be soft. You were meant to be strong, ruthlessly disciplined, dangerously focused, and fearlessly alive. So when they call you a monster, smile. They don't understand what it took to become this version of you, and they never will. This is where it begins. The death of weakness, the rise of the modern monster, not to destroy the world, but to master it. Comfort, the sweetest poison ever created. It whispers to you every morning, stay in bed a little longer, you deserve it. It tempts you at every turn. Take it easy. You've worked enough, and before you know it, the fire inside you begins to dim. No explosion, no drama, just quiet decay, the slow death of your potential. That's how comfort kills. It doesn't attack, it seduces. It doesn't destroy you overnight. It lulls you into submission until you forget what hunger ever felt like. The monster mindset begins here. In the moment you realize comfort isn't peace, it's paralysis. The men who rise above the ordinary are the ones who learn to suffer on purpose. They train when they're tired. They build when no one's watching. They sacrifice ease for evolution. Every act of discipline is a declaration of war, not against the world, but against the weaker version of yourself. Because comfort is the graveyard of greatness. The death of comfort happens in silence, when you stop making excuses, when you choose effort over escape, when you turn away from the crowd and walk alone. You begin to crave discomfort, not because you enjoy pain, but because you understand what it brings. Pain sharpens, struggle hardens, discomfort transforms, and soon the things that used to break you become your training ground. Cold showers, early mornings, isolation, self-control. These become your rituals, not to impress anyone, but to prove that nothing owns you anymore. Every time you say no to comfort, you awaken something ancient within you, the primal force that remembers how to survive, fight, and conquer. The weak man runs from this pain. The strong man hunts it, because deep down, discipline is just another word for freedom. The freedom to act, to build, to dominate, without being ruled by craving or fear. The world will never understand this mindset. They'll call you obsessed. They'll call you heartless. They'll call you a monster. Let them. You'll be too focused building an empire from your discomfort to even hear them. The death of comfort isn't easy. It's brutal. It strips you of softness and exposes your raw willpower. But that's exactly why it works. Because in that pain, in that isolation, in that relentless hunger, you are reborn. You become sharper, colder, calmer. You stop needing motivation. You become it. And when the world looks at you with confusion, wondering how you keep moving forward, you'll know something they don't. Comfort makes slaves. Discomfort makes monsters. And that is the first law of power. To rise, you must first kill comfort. Control. It's the most underestimated form of power. Everyone wants to appear strong, to shout, to fight, to prove a point. But real power doesn't scream. It waits, it watches, it calculates. That's what separates predators from prey. Most men are slaves to their emotions. They get angry, they react, they explode, and the moment they do, they lose. Because the man who cannot control his emotion can never control his outcome. This is where the monster mindset begins to evolve. You don't kill emotion, you command it. You start feeling anger and thinking, good, more fuel. You feel fear and whisper, perfect, I'll use it to focus. You feel pain and say, excellent, I'll make it my teacher. That's emotional alchemy, turning weakness into strength, turning reaction into control. Understand this, your emotions are signals, not orders. The moment you treat them like commands, you hand over your power. But when you treat them as information, you become unstoppable. The calm predator doesn't need to prove anything. He doesn't need to shout to be feared. His silence is the warning. He can sit in chaos and remain unshaken. He can walk into fire and still breathe slow. That's not numbness. That's mastery. When your mind is calm, every other player on the board becomes predictable. They show their fear, their anger, their frustration, but you stay unreadable. You become the ghost in the game, quiet, strategic, untraceable. That's when the world starts to fear you. Because people can handle anger, but they can't handle calmness that feels inhuman. You stop being emotional. You become tactical. Every breath becomes a calculation. Every pause becomes pressure. Every silence becomes dominance. And while the emotional ones burn themselves out, you're conserving energy, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. This is emotional control, the art of power under pressure. It's what generals, kings, and leaders have mastered for centuries. They don't act fast. They act right. They let the storm pass before they draw their sword. They let the noise die before they speak. They let emotion fade before they decide. And when they finally move, the world feels it. That's the secret of the calm predator. He's not without emotion. He's beyond it. His composure makes people question their own strength. His stillness feels dangerous. His patience feels like pressure. Because when a man controls his emotions, he controls the tone of every room, the direction of every conflict, and the energy of every person around him. You can't manipulate him. You can't provoke him. You can't read him. And that makes him terrifying. Emotion under control isn't coldness. It's evolution. It's how you stop being a victim of your feelings and start being the architect of your reality. That's why they call him a monster, because he feels everything and still chooses silence. Focus. It's the rarest form of power in a distracted world. Every day, billions drown in noise, scrolling, reacting, consuming, chasing everything, mastering nothing. But the predator doesn't chase. He waits, motionless, eyes locked on one target. That's the difference between a man who wants power and a man who becomes it. The ruthless focus of power means you stop scattering your energy. You stop bleeding attention on meaningless things. You learn that every second wasted is a fragment of strength you'll never get back. While the world moves in chaos, you build in silence. While they talk about goals, you execute. While they chase pleasure, you pursue mastery. Because focus is discipline in motion. It's the moment when desire transforms into direction. Ask yourself, how much of your life has been stolen by distraction? Every scroll, every argument, every dopamine hit, all of it drains your power. Real monsters understand this. They don't allow the world to dictate their attention. They weaponize it. When you focus, the world slows down. Your thoughts sharpen. Time obeys you. That's the hidden truth. Control your focus. You control your fate. The ruthless focus of power demands sacrifice. It means cutting off noise, people, even comfort. You can't master your craft while feeding every craving. You can't build an empire while checking every notification. Each no you say to distraction is a yes to dominance. Each hour of silence builds an edge that noise can never match. And soon, people begin to notice. They'll call you cold. They'll call you obsessed. They'll call you a monster. Let them. Obsession is what mediocrity calls excellence. They fear what they don't understand, a man so focused that temptation can't touch him. This mindset turns ordinary men into legends. Every great strategist, every empire builder, every visionary had one thing in common. They lived in ruthless focus. They weren't lucky. They were locked in. The noise of the world begged for their attention, and they ignored it. They stayed with the plan, sharpened their skills, executed relentlessly. That's how power is built, one focused action at a time. Ruthless focus doesn't mean burnout. It means clarity. You know what matters, and you protect it like your life depends on it. Because it does. You realize attention is currency, and the man who spends it wisely becomes rich in power. The predator never looks at every shadow. He waits for one movement. Then he strikes. Swift, precise, final. That's the art of focus. No wasted energy, no wasted motion, only results. And when it's done, he disappears again. Calm, silent, unstoppable. That's the ruthless focus of power. It's not loud. It's not desperate. It's deliberate. In a world addicted to noise, be the silence that controls it. When others chase everything, chase one thing, and own it completely. That's how kings move. That's how monsters rise. That's how power is born. They say you should fight your darkness. They tell you to suppress your anger, your hunger, your ambition, as if those things make you dangerous. But here's the truth. Suppressing your darkness doesn't make you good. It makes you weak. Because the monster within you was never your enemy. It was your potential. The men who rise to power don't cage their dark side. They command it. They know it's the part that refuses to surrender, the part that doesn't quit when everything collapses. Your darkness is your drive, your rage, your instinct for survival. Without it, you're polite, but powerless. Every man has two sides, one that seeks peace and one that seeks dominance, one that wants safety and one that craves greatness. Most people spend their lives chained to the first. The rare few, the dangerous few, learn to merge them. They don't destroy their darkness. They discipline it. That's the difference between chaos and control. The monster within you is energy, pure, raw, and limitless. But if you don't harness it, it will devour you. If you try to cage it, it will rot inside you. So what do? You train it. You teach it where to strike, when to stay silent, and when to rise. That's what mastery looks like. Not suppression, but synchronization. When life crushes you, the calm man breaks. The monster-trained man adapts. He feeds on chaos. He grows from pain. He doesn't say, "Why me?" He says, "Try me." That's not arrogance. That's control. Because once you've learned to use your darkness as a tool, the world can't scare you anymore. Fear loses its grip. Doubt loses its voice. Weakness loses its throne. The monster within is not rage without reason. It's power under command. It's emotion turned into fuel. It's chaos turned into clarity. When you operate from this state, you become untouchable. Calm on the surface, ruthless underneath. People feel it. They don't know why, but they sense it. You walk into a room and energy shifts, not because you speak louder, but because your presence does. You've seen both your light and your shadow. You've accepted them. You've forged them into one force. That's when you become unstoppable. Because now your monster doesn't control you. You control it. And when the world pushes, you don't break. You bite back. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to explain yourself. You've already won the hardest war. The one inside your mind. So, when they call you heartless, when they call you cold, when they call you a monster, smile. They'll never understand. This monster doesn't destroy. It builds. It builds discipline. It builds strength. It builds power. Because the monster within you, when controlled, is not your curse. It's your crown. If this message awakened something inside you, don't just scroll away. Like if you felt that shift, subscribe to keep building the monster within. Share this with someone who's ready to rise and rule themselves. Because the world doesn't need more nice men. It needs controlled monsters.